Well, I can start with the first racehorse we ever had. Keep in mind, I was relatively newlyweds, and I was farming and raising cattle, and cutting horses was a part of what we did, and the showing was just for fun. But we used horses to sort the cattle, and that's how I got interested in cutting. And I knew nothing about racing. Well, after we would finish working our cattle, all us kids, we'd get together and see who had the fastest horse. We'd race. Well, this guy would come and help us, and he had this buckskin gelding that would beat us all the time. So we said, maybe that horse is fast enough to go to the racetrack. So we all got together and pitched in our money and sent him to a local bush track trainer in Louisiana. And we all go to the first race, and he wins his first race. Just a little match race, 2-horse race. So we did that a little bit, had some success. And so I had Charolais cattle, and they were kind of unique back in its day. This was in the 60s. And a friend of mine who had cutting horses and a ranch, his dad came and saw one of my bulls. I got to put this in perspective now. I was working for my dad, making $126 a week, and I was trying to sell this bull for $1,500, and that was a lot of money to me. And he liked the bull calf, and he said, but I want to trade you a racehorse for that calf. I said, I don't know anything about racing, but my grandfather used to trade mules and horses. And I heard him tell a man one time, he said, this horse, you watch a horse, if he can lay down and roll over, all the way over easily, he's a pretty good horse. And when looking back on it, all that said that he was athletic. He lived about 100 miles from me. He said, you just deliver the bull, and if you don't like the horse, I'll write you a check. I said, I'll be there in the morning, fully expecting to get my check. He got there, and he had this horse who had raced, and I knew nothing about racing. And he said he'd won a race, and he was a little stallion, and he was, I don't know if he was maybe 4 years old. And I said, well, I think I'll just take my check. And that horse stuck his nose in the ground. He was turned out in a roping pen, and he rolled like a top. I said, maybe I'll just take the horse, and you just keep your check. I'm coming home with this horse in the trailer with buyer's remorse. What am I going to tell my wife? She's expecting this check, and I'm coming back with this horse. Well, I'm really upset at myself. But we get through it all, and that night I called a friend of mine. His name was Billy Duhon. He was a jack of all trades in the horse world. He could train any kind of horse. Keep this in perspective. Evangeline Downs opened in '66, and this was in '68. So he had started training racehorses. And I called him and I said, this is what I've done. He looked him up in the chart books, the QHA chart books. He said, horse could run someday. He said, how long has he been out of training? I said, 4 months. He said, well, if he's not hurt anyway, I said, how long will it take you to tell me if he'll pay his way? He said, I can tell you in 60 days. Brought the horse to him and I said, how much do you charge? It was 1968. $137.50 a month. I wrote him a check. I said, here's your first month. I'm coming back in 60 days and give you your second month and pick my horse up if he's not paying his way. In 5 weeks, he called me. He said, your horse is in a race at Evangeline Downs. Never been to the racetrack. You had to have a coat to get in the clubhouse and maybe even a tie. So Buddy and I come in from farming, I clean up, and we go to the race. It's an hour drive for us. We get us a stake, and our horse runs third, and you get paid 5 places. He won like $300 and something in the race. This is not all bad. 2 weeks later, he runs fourth and make another $100 and something. Okay, he's paying his way. 3 weeks later, he runs and he wins. Oh my goodness. 2 weeks later, he wins again. 2 weeks later, he wins again. 3 weeks later, he wins again. 3 weeks later, he wins again. He wins 5 races in a row. My Lord, I said, we started getting the magazines. We started reading about it. I didn't know the difference between a claiming race, a allowance race, or a stake race.